1, 2. It's 10. No, it's only 8. Oh, somebody, they join us tonight? I'm not sure that.
Hi, good night. This is Beneek. I am not there tonight. I'm just leaving work. So I asked for the link for tonight only.
Oh, who else? We have someone else? Azaria?
Azia.
Azia? Hi,
Yeah.
Azia.
Hi.
Oh, I wasn't even paying attention because last week, both of you weren't here.
I was here last week, but it's disconnected.
1 minute. Sorry, Azia. 1
I
minute.
was here. I was here last week, but it disconnected.
You get it now? She's the lady that took your last.
1 minute.
Right.
Right. Oh, 1 minute. Azia
Yes.
and Veronique. Veronique, you were here last week?
Yeah.
Veronique? Okay, because someone was on, but they didn't identify themselves and it went off because it timed out.
That was me.
Okay. All right. Well, great. I didn't realize that you were on because I was past the camera. That means I gotta stay in the camera for most of the night. Hi.
No problem.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, there are 10. Yeah, there are now 10 of us because both of you are on. Well, one of you were here last week, but Veronique, you're joining us. You are from Exuma.
I am from Exuma.
Okay, is there what I'm gonna need, I guess your phone number, which you can do, McGill does the connection.
Yes.
So that we can pass it on to whatever group that you're gonna be assigned to, so that they can send the Zoom meeting, whoever's gonna organize it to you, okay, to be
No.
part of that group.
No problem.
Okay. All right, so what we're gonna do, and my apologies, we're gonna break into 2 groups. So that basically we're gonna have 5 persons per group. And you're gonna complete the project, like I said, the presentation for the 15th of February, and it's gonna be 20 to 30 minutes, not more than 30 minutes, because we're just gonna take the first half of the class to do this particular presentation. And as I said earlier to the rest of the class, and I hope you caught that, it's dealing with the 3 generations that we are all going to encounter or are encountering in the workplace, and how to boost employee morale with those persons. So let's begin with you. Veronique, you're 1, Zaria. You're 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so all the 2 stand up. Okay, all the 2s, okay. So you're along with Zaria, okay?
Azia, yeah.
Azia, Azia. You're along with Azia. Boy, I'm trying to think so that you can see what these ladies look like. Just come quickly and show your face in the camera. Yeah, I don't want to twist it. Okay, this is your group. So that's your group. So the ones, verdict. So the ones come. All the ones stand up. Ones. Come stand. Please come to the camera and show who you're made up of.
Hold on, the lady from Commonwealth Banking coming back.
Yes, she's on the
I'm coming back next week.
Good. I just want to make sure you can see me.
Yes.
Not for this, not for this.
Well, I don't know. Anyhow, she's joined the class virtually. So for whatever reason. Okay. So these are the two groups that you have, and that's the assignment. It's due on the 15th of February. Okay. Now that puts another little thing here. I have this survey that I need everybody to complete relating to their personality style. But what I will do, I'll come back to this and I will have Ms. Knowles upload it if she can for me, copy it and then share the screen. And I don't know if you have access to a printer, you may not be able to do it. One of you may not be able to do it now if you're just if you're driving. But you will have to complete this because this is your personality profile that I need everyone to complete. So I'm going to see if she can upload this before I do it with the group, okay? Now, what we want to do here tonight, look at, boy, this becomes a little bit more complicated. We're going to look at hiring, we're going to look at selection, and we're going to look at how it's done properly. One of the things that, no, it's no page yet. We're going to come to that in a minute. Do both of you have, did they send you a booklet to Exoma? Did you receive a booklet? No?
No, ma'am, I never got a booklet.
Okay, when Mrs. Knowles or Bullet comes in, they need to, I'm not sure how they're getting their resources to you, but you're gonna need a booklet to work with us, okay?
Okay, I'll give them a call tomorrow.
Yeah, that's very, very important because that's a key tool to what we're doing.
Okay.
All right, one of the things we're gonna talk tonight about is, as I said, recruitment. And I have I've prepared what I call a checklist when you're dealing with recruitment and you're dealing with staffing. There are some major considerations, things that you have to keep in mind when you are hiring persons and selecting people. I've simply put down a checklist, and maybe you want to take some notes going forward here with this. One of the things you want to do is consider the human resource forecasting and projections and identify positions which have been budgeted based on approvals. Now, what do I mean by that? As an HR manager, one of the things that you do annually, normally most organizations I work with did it during October, November, after appraisals. But you recognize the shortages that you may have within your department. And you identify what those shortages are as it relates to staffing. And sometimes that is done through doing what we call an analysis of the demands of the HR department. You do an analysis, and if you have oversight of other departments, they need to do that as well. And in doing that, you're able to determine your staff shortages and what is needed for the upcoming year. And I call that forecasting, or I call that a projection. And then you determine the level the employee is coming in at. Is as a senior level, as an officer, as a clerical, I know the technical, but all of that is discussed and determined so that you can identify what the salary and the benefits will be. And then these are submitted normally to your senior executives, who then compile it with other recommendations and other needs of the organization, and it's then budgeted for, and it would have been identified. The positions that needed would be identified. Now, I know that things change. A lot of things change in an environment. We have a typical setting with the pandemic. Everything changed and how we work as a result of the pandemic. So you have unexpected things that come up that may require additional staffing and which may not have been budgeted for. But let's think of this, that it has been budgeted for. An analysis has been conducted and has been completed. And you know what positions you will need to be productive within the next year. So that's one of the first things you do. You ensure that the position you are about to recruit for and advertise, whether it's internally, externally, however, we're going to talk about that in a minute, that it is done and it's approved and you have the go ahead so that there are no surprises. Do you know what it is? Can you imagine you have a small business and a small company and you need a position and it's going to say, let's say that position is $100,000. That may be a salary and benefits. You know what is the push to get that and it wasn't approved in your budget? The company then has to then buy another $100,000 or $200,000 because it may be 2 or 3 positions or 300. So what you do, you get the pushback because it hasn't been approved or budgeted for, and then you get slighted. You know, your department is no longer as productive as it can be because it cannot meet the demands which you did not project. So one of the things as we talk about and we discuss selection and recruitment, ensure that your HR forecasting and proper projections are made and they are budgeted for and they receive the appropriate approvals. Secondly, when you're doing recruitment, you should ensure that there are clear job descriptions and clear reporting structures. This is something people go and advertise for position, they go and hire. The person reach an organization, they don't even know what they're supposed to be doing. Why? Because there was no clear job description of what that position was required to do. And then in addition to that, they don't even know who they're supposed to be answering to or reporting to. So what happens? It creates confusion within the department or within the organization. So that's the second thing you need to check for. Ensure that there are clear job descriptions and clear reporting structures. Thirdly, as an HR manager, you have a responsibility to make sure that your department organizational chart is in place. That's very important, especially for new persons coming in. They want to know where they fit in the organization. They want to know who they are reporting to. And they also want to know how it's interchangeable within the organization or the department, and the job functions could be interchangeable based on the demands. So that's the fourth thing. Make sure that there is a department organization structure or chart in place. Now, one of the things when we talk about recruitment, we want to ensure that when all this is done, you post an advertisement within your organization. But to keep employee morale right, to ensure that people are treated fairly, it should be posted internally first. Now, I know that don't take place in a lot of places. I hear the ooh and I hear the ah. And it's the truth. And so what happens, people who may have some of these skills that you're now requesting or requiring or advertising for may be right in your organization. But you never did a job analysis to determine what people are capable or competent to do. What skill sets do they really have? Sometimes people take different jobs because they have, in quote, no other choice. They have to work. They're willing to take other jobs until they find the right job. All right. And sometimes that talent is latent. It's right there in your organization. So we're suggesting, or we as a seasoned HR professional, we suggest that you post the internal vacancy or position and you have a specified time for that ad to run for. You don't want it run on for months. You probably post it and advertise that people must respond within 10 days. If you don't put a specified time, you're opening yourself up to trouble because people aren't able to or will not make a decision if they don't have, if you don't, let's say, box them in for a time period to respond to it. And then later, well, they didn't tell me it was closed, and nobody said it was closed, then becomes another issue. So to avoid those type of issues, you want to have a specified time. And those of you who work in unionized environments, what you also need to do is to check your union agreement with your organization. Because often in these industrial agreements, they have specifications as it relates to how you recruit and approach for your recruitment, and specified times as to how long that ad should run. So you want to check your industrial agreement. If there is no fit internally, then you go to advertise externally. There's nothing wrong with advertising externally, but one of the things, give those who work with you an opportunity, interview them. And if they don't meet the requirements which you have outlined in the job ad, then if you're free, you feel fair. An HR department should always be seen as a fair place, okay? And justifiably fair. We could say, yes, they do it properly. Let's look at page 14 through 15 in our tool book. On page 14, it talks about attracting, recruiting, and selecting the right talent. And it outlines here that there are 4 steps in the staffing process. Recruitment, selection, placement and inductions or orientation, we refer to it as, and then training and development. This, Mrs. Marcel has identified 4 steps here. Recruitment, selection, placement and inductions, orientation, that is training and development. But from what I have just said, I've given you 3 other steps that should also take place in the staffing process. What are they? What did we say earlier?
Make sure they should have the budget. Make sure it's
Budget,
approved,
it's
as budget.
approved,
Mhm.
budget, proper, clear job description, clear reporting line.
It's a must to have an organizational chart.
Great,
Mhm.
wonderful. Make sure it has an organizational chart. Hi. Hello. You joining us? Yes. Wonderful, and your name? Kendra. Hi. Okay, come in. I need to get, go and ask Ms. Knowles for one of these books for me. You got it, you got it? Okay. Come in and have a seat. You're sitting right next to the lady in the back. Okay. And we'll make sure you get the register to sign in for me, okay?
Sign it there.
Where? Oh. Thank you. Okay, so we're adding those other features to the process, and you can put those in your notes there that she has recommended. Okay, see, one of the things when you're a practitioner, there's some other things that come that you know should also take place. Also on page 14 in our handbook, there's different sources of recruitment that are referred to as to how you can recruit. And we're gonna come back and give you a handout also as relates to that. But some recommendations she has outlined in the handbook here. We can recruit through print media, television, radio, social media, job fairs, applications, resumes, job placement agencies, personal referrals, and the Department of Labor. Now, this is what she has outlined here, but there are some other ones we're going to add later in a few minutes, which we can also add to this. But from your perspective, thinking of today, what else can you do? How else can you recruit? What other sources of recruitment do we have?
Well, I would say LinkedIn, but that comes on social media.
Fine, great.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is a good one. Great.
There's also agencies
That does it.
Employment agency.
They have that here, job placement agency.
Yes, and so, and another terminology is employment agencies, they're also known for as well. Where else, what else do we have? Facebook.
That's social media.
Yeah, we're giving, yeah, we're specifying,
Specifying.
them, we're specifying, so we have a clarity,
Okay.
for those who are joining us. What else in social media?
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, yeah. Yes, yes.
And I guess I'll go to your website,
You have websites, the different websites that employ that, the social, virtual, agencies that employ Bahamians. Okay, you have executive find, search people, there are agencies that are strictly concentrate on executive search. And then normally for very high profile jobs. Scouting, yes. And they just had a job fair visit at UB last week, I think it was. Yes, I know the institute participated, and people just, even though it was a job fair, they just go scouting, like to games and other social events that these organizations are having. Anything else?
I heard one was to, that was the old value.
Yes, the department,
You mean IHOP?
IHOP, the Department of Labor
They
hosted
hosted
one
that.
for IHOP,
They want to put 600 people?
exactly.
No,
That-
they posted different.
That's a lot, but for an archipelago,
different locations.
it ain't,
They figured what the hell changed. But some people have with that. They haven't more than one IHOP.
It's 24 hours. It's only 24 hours.
okay, 600 people isn't much.
No.
People, when you have your back office, you have your purchasing, you have your public relation, you have your support, janitorial support staff, it's not a lot. Okay, but it tells you the degree of involvement that they're gonna get involved in the local community. And we always remember, don't just think New Providence, okay? Think archipelago, think of other islands that are growing. And these investors are going to those places and doing some new things. I went to Harbor Bay one day last week. Do you realize that they're moving Starbucks to the back of Harbor Bay? Anyone saw that? You know where?
What do you call the back? Where Sandy's what?
So you mean with the bed back, so what?
Yeah, where the exercise places and it's right opposite, they're coming from off Shirley Street.
Oh.
By the party store.
By the party store, what
Okay,
used to
that's
be the party store, they're putting Starbucks in there.
So it's not, they're gonna move it then?
I don't know if they're gonna have to, I don't know.
Everybody's going to buy. Everybody goes to Starbucks.
Yeah.
So
But
how
it's
to?
bigger,
The
it's
house?
twice the size of what's in the front. So that means they're making it like a real Starbucks for lounging and whatever. They're probably gonna have more security in the back there as well.
That's
What?
so close to Camp Road.
That's.
That's a running joke for the night. Yeah, but what I'm saying that to say, the other thing, but they're gonna have to have some interesting ways, some things, to attract people to come and work in Starbucks, to work there. And then they're gonna have to have training after that, but there are so many interesting ways of how now to get people into different organizations. Let's also look at, that's page 15. Let's look at 15 for a minute. We're gonna add to this in a few minutes, but let's also look at page 15. Page 15 talks about exploring the strengths and weaknesses of these different means of attracting and selecting and recruiting staff to your organization. It talks about print media. And Ms. Exoma, you may have to do these 2 columns, some 3 columns on a piece of paper for now, if you don't have the booklet.
I do have the booklet. They just sent it to me, so I'm printing it off now.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at page 15, it talks about print media. There's some strengths and there's some weaknesses as it relates to print media, the newspaper. We want you to think for a few minutes through this. What are the strengths and what are the weaknesses? As it relates to print media, television, radio, social media, job fairs, application resumes, job placement. I can tell you with application and resumes, people just lie a lot. Fraud. Job placement agencies, costly. I'm just thinking of on the top of my head, some of them because you gotta pay them to register, and there ain't no guarantee you can get the job. Personal referrals, that's where you have families, okay? And the Department of Labor, it's Department of Labor may take a long time. So let's just look at this list quickly. See if you can just for a few minutes list some strengths and list some weaknesses of each of those. Give you about 7 minutes to do that. For me, please. Okay. So if you can do that, in the meantime, until you get that booklet, you can also do the 3 columns, the source, print media, television, radio, social media, job fairs, application, resume, job placement agencies, personal referrals, and Department of Labor. 1 column strength and the other column weaknesses. I'm just gonna give these so she can copy these and send to the lady. Like that. Okay, he's sending, McGill is gonna run it, gonna scan the stuff, Randy, to send to you, some of the handouts, so you should get them shortly, okay?
Okay.
Everybody finish? A couple more minutes? Let's see what we come up with. And I'm gonna probably go through some of these a little quick because, we really only have a short time. For much to be learned. So let's see what we come up with. And do me a favor tonight, just say your name so it can help me learn the names quickly when you're answering, that helps a lot. What do you come up with strengths and weaknesses? As it relates to what we have listed here on page 15. And Veronique, you can also participate. Print media, what are some of the weaknesses?
Error, the typo error.
Okay,
Typo error.
remember what we said first, say your name and then. Okay, then tell me. Denise, okay, and welcome to the class, Denise. Okay, go ahead, what you were saying?
Not much people buy the paper.
Boy, that's true. I remember I used to get 2 papers, Morning and the Tribune and the Guardian. I don't get none now. I don't buy it no more because you get it online, eh?
Yeah.
But they still reading it.
But even online, a lot of people don't even really take note of that.
It's true. So that's one of the weaknesses.
Right.
What is, and errors, somebody said errors, typos. Yes, there, you see it, you see them. Yes, they're not free. It's costly. That's a weakness. So you know, bring those notes of what else? What other weaknesses?
Any strength?
We're gonna come to strengths in a minute. We should have done the strengths first. And but when you're doing evaluations and anything, always go to the strengths first and then the weaknesses. That's just basically anything, even when you discipline employees. Okay, what else though? What other weaknesses with print? We said errors,
Availability.
availability. Okay, great. Costly.
We have that.
What, yeah, what else?
Timing, timing,
Okay, explain to me when you said timing, when it,
by timing, I mean, like, with the newspaper, it should come at a certain time, now, if it doesn't. I'm trying to find.
The deadline of the date.
And the deadline has passed.
yes. So it can affect your timing. It may cause you to have to rerun that ad and delay you hiring that person. Excellent, very good. Any other, 1 or 2 other weaknesses I need you to get? Everyone, suppose it's a international company and you're running it in the print, local, just a local newspaper. It limits your scope. It limits who you're reaching out to your market. It can limit that if it isn't, if we don't put it in other papers that are local to the culture, to the country or the region wherever you're advertising and what you're advertising for. Any other weaknesses? And someone did say costly. It can be very, very costly. What are the strengths then for print media?
You have a lot of options on one, in one.
Who's that speaking?
Splendid folks.
And also it's for online person.
You can have a lot of different options to choose from when you actually either buy a paper or go to one of those, if anybody decides to, put it in, you can buy a paper, you have options, it ain't just be one thing. It ain't just be one thing.
It's not the Tribune, you have the Guardian, you have the News.
And then they have multiple jobs in one paper.
Different.
Okay, so that's one of the strengths. Great. Let us know if you all can hear us, okay? If you can't hear.
More options.
Options.
Okay.
Or print, you have different types of media, not just necessarily the newspaper either. Okay, you can put it in form. You can also use creativity, you can use graphics.
This strength.
These are strengths, yeah. Graphics and the strengths in the print media.
And the
And
black and white paper.
you can print for color.
I don't think I can just be creative about them out. So it may be realistic now.
Well, no, but you may not see. Well,
Yeah.
you may not see. But what may not be attractive to you may be to someone else. You see, so there's diversity. Not necessarily, no.
But you know what I think?
They don't have to be.
Yeah,
Because how they actually post the position, their wording,
Right.
some of them are very attractive with the wording, and when you look at the.
Yes.
A little job.
Job
Well, that's
function,
pretty creative.
but
But
no,
no, that's something like, wow.
That's a job.
Exactly, exactly.
Smart.
Yes, that's
Yes.
marketing. You can bring your creativity and your innovation into print media. So
Okay.
because always remember, don't just think about you, think about your market, and what attracts you is not necessarily what's going to attract someone else. There's diversity, okay? And this is where your graphic people, their creativity, and when I look at and this is not an ad, but when I look at the 50th anniversary and the logo, and you remember I don't know if any of you saw the opening and the gentleman who developed that. Did anyone see that? Oh, you all need to go on YouTube and watch it. He looked at the archipelago of the Bahamas, and what he saw, the archipelago, it comes down from Inagua, it comes up, and it literally takes a shape of a 5. And that's what he created, the 50, the 5 from,
Oh, for the 50th anniversary.
for the 50th anniversary. It was, you go on YouTube and watch it. It's a very creative. But I'm saying that you see with print, you tap into the creativity. It's costly. And some of them are color. Lattice puts on a lot of color ads, okay, in print media. So what any other strengths with print?
People were allowed.
A wide audience.
Yeah,
A vast amount of people.
You can reach a vast amount of people and diversified groups of people. Okay, great. Let's look at television, radio, and social media. It's unlimited. That's all I can say with the strengths. It's limitless, what you can do. Even you can put on a TikTok. It's limitless. Anything else you want to say about television? Some people can say people don't watch television.
Accessibility. Most people watch television or have some social media connection.
In some form.
Right.
Okay, great.
That could also be a weakness too.
Explain to us how.
Because now a lot of the humans locals don't watch that, and they don't even have cable. So a lot of the stuff that we get is US, you get Netflix, you have the box, whatever the different source of entertainment, but they are not advertising anything local. Everything is in the US.
Okay, what,
I agree.
you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, you want to tell us why you agree?
Just like she was saying, as far as television goes, A lot of our advertisement is done on like ZNS, and a lot of people don't watch ZNS anymore. Like I know for me, I don't even have cable. I have the Android box, so I never see ZNS. So I feel like television wise, it would only reach a certain amount of people, maybe the older generation, possibly.
Okay, we received that. Okay, because I gotta watch the news every night, all right? I have to go between the three. But one of the things, though, when cable, I don't know if they still do it, when they were on the US, if you're watching a US, let's say the 10, they bought ads in 10 to advertise certain things. So you still have that ability to do that. But the question is, are you willing to pay for it? All right, so their market was expanded. So they no longer just advertised. If it was something relevant to an international community, they were able to buy ad space and advertise whatever it was that they were trying to attract the international community to. So as HR managers, do not limit yourself just to a local environment. But once again, it depends on what your budget is. Okay? Job fairs. I think this is one of the most, what's the strength of job fairs?
You get to meet the HR person in person.
You can get to meet people
In person.
in person.
Uh-huh.
Go on, Verdi. You were saying? Sorry? Okay. Somebody else was
I
saying.
think you could also get to pretty much see persons, not only need but behavior. You could learn
Yes,
some behaviors of individual.
yes,
Of job fair.
yes,
Their character, how they
yes,
present themselves.
yes. Also, you're attracting youth. Job fairs mainly for younger persons, and if that's the market you're going after, it's an excellent way to introduce your company. I have a family member who has a company, and they did a job fair last week, and the young men who were attracted, it was a technology company, who were attracted to the technology that they were offering. They got young people ready to be hired, graduating this year. It's an excellent way to attract youth to your business. And you need young people in your business so that it does not become redundant. And also you need young people in your business so that you could train them and mold them into the type of employees you wish to have in your organization. And right, it brings succession, and then succession brings continuity. Excellent. Okay, job fair. So we have any weaknesses?
Too crowded.
Some of them are very
Too
crowded in
crowded.
spaces.
And sometimes everybody not even gets in. Some people didn't even get in.
That is true.
Mhm.
Some people, because especially if an unemployment is high,
Mhm.
I don't know what percentage it is now. Anyone can recall what percentage it is?
It's high, it's still
It's
high.
very, very high.
Mhm.
So they can be overcrowded.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else negative about job fairs? They can be limited to also one environment.
Time,
Pardon me?
what about timing?
Well, you only have a certain amount of hours, you're right, that you can be done in. So there's some of the weaknesses. But one also with job fairs, you can go island hopping with job fairs. Oh, that's a positive thing with job fairs. It does not necessarily have to be NASA centric. Application and resumes. What are some of the strengths?
You get to be creative with your resume.
You can, but I can tell you all know from experience. Be careful with that. If it's too long and too dancey.
It's journey.
Just flip the way, I ain't into that. Let me see what you have. That's what happens.
Mhm.
But also you're able to build, one of the positive things, you're able to build a database.
Mhm.
So you always have a reference.
Yeah.
You always have some place to go to even before you go internally or externally.
And you're able to extract information via vetting process.
exactly for your vetting process, which is very, very important. Any other strengths? You can see people can read and write. I mean, you would be surprised.
I have that in weaknesses.
Yes, you'd be surprised. And some of the things that, the question they ask, the questions, you know that this person cannot read or write properly. So you're able to get, and also, you know, in interviews, we don't ask people how old they are anymore. But your job application with your resume sometimes tell, because you put things on there when you finish school, your date of birth. You don't even have to put your date of birth, you can just say when you graduate, the person graduated from school or university. So, and you add it up and you analyze it, it gives you a lot of information that you don't necessarily have to ask, where people feel that you are violating their privacy. And you know, and if you go to work for any American firms, there's so many limitations on what you can ask people in an interview before they say that you are being what? Prejudiced or rude or violating their human rights. Okay.
Weakness?
What weaknesses do we have?
People lie.
They do lie. They do lie. They lie good, boy. Oh, Lord, I can tell you. But even though you put at the bottom of your, at the bottom of the resume, you have, this references, boy, they could put some names there. They worked with us, when? They reported to, never had, we don't.
Oh, wow.
There's some interesting things. Okay, what's the other one?
Personal reference.
Personal references, okay, job placement agencies, costly, like I said, or employment agencies, they can be, the weaknesses that they can be costly.
I don't think it's much of them.
There aren't many
Many, there are
now,
not many.
like how it used to be, but there are a lot online.
Right.
They're now virtual, online, more of the agencies, you send it in, you pay your fee, and they put it in their database and they distribute it to their person. The approach to it is, is a little different, but they still exist. Okay, and the Department of Labor.
No personal
What
referral.
is the job agency?
Strength.
Yeah, what is the strength? Proper screening.
Excellent. Proper screening takes place. You develop a trusted relationship.
And
With-
additional non-biased input,
What's that?
additional non-biased input.
Yes, that's a great one. Any other strengths? And also it brings, sorry, it saves you time. Yes, good. And it brings diversity. Because sometimes you can, the diversity of persons who go to those agencies, whether it's direct or online, is very diverse. And there may be markets you may never touch. All right, personal referrals.
Weakness?
Let's go with the strengths.
Guaranteed.
Aha, why you say guaranteed?
As the nicest HR manager, sure she can give me a job.
You think so? Possibly, yes.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
It could be seen as a
Hiring
weakness
a
and a
family.
strength. It could be seen as a weakness and a strength. And we should be beyond that now as professionals. Yeah, and then unfortunately, in an island environment community, it's,
Only family.
yeah, it's small, everyone related.
Everybody related.
All you have to do is to see a funeral listing, auntie, uncle, grandpa.
And the quick
In-laws.
it happens rapidly because this person knows their personality for somebody and getting this position, so. In terms of push, the situation a little bit more.
Well, that's a positive, yeah, yes, it is definitely a positive. Okay, let's quickly go to the Department of Labor. Strengths,
I'm gonna get strong recruits,
you can get strong
strong recruits,
recruits,
based on Because when you look at the Department of Labor, you would think that if they're gonna refer somebody to you, they should have already done some screening.
Vetted and
And
everything.
so you would get like some of the best applicants.
When?
Yes, you can get some of the best applicants.
Just when? That's the question.
Yeah.
When? Because they take so long. So
The
when is it gonna
process,
happen?
when you say when the process is longer, that's one of the, probably
The longest.
the weaknesses in the process. Is they get hundreds in, okay? Any other positive things about Department of Labor?
They place you based on
Your skill set.
your skill set.
Yes, you get placed based on your skill set. So in a lot of instances, based on they place you, it matches the fit. Because they have software that helps them with that to place people in the right place.
I never hear nobody get hired from the Department of Labor all my life.
Oh, yes, I can tell, well, I work for government, 2 government agencies, and I can tell you it does take place. We get hundreds.
And they place people in job?
Yes, yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
I did that once myself when I was young.
yeah.
Never hear back from them.
You never heard back from them.
Yeah, oh, they never call, they never.
They have, especially going down to, we get hundreds. The government agencies, as one of the most, the strongest feeders for government agencies, through the Department of Labor.
That's where they get most of their people week from when people come to.
Yeah, well, the 52, they go
I
to,
thought they got left.
they go.
That's just. That's what they.
No, but some of what you hear is not real. It's not true. Some of it is propaganda.
What do they get?
What is that for?
That's.
That's
A lot of them don't suit the position and I can see it from experience.
the part of the Department of, no, the Department of Public Personnel manages they don't call it a 52 work, that's what you all call it, but it's not, that's not the correct name for it. But it comes to the Department of Public Personnel up on Meeting Street. Some MPs use it as a reference point to make referrals from their constituencies. They do send them there to register. And if they meet some of the requirements, pardon me?
That's why I have a weakness.
You think it's a weakness?
That is a weakness.
Why you think it's a weakness?
Because a lot of them don't qualify.
That's it.
A lot of them qualify, I ain't doing that in a minute. What else? Why is else is the weakness?
Because they come with,
They're trying to increase the
a lot of them.
Hold on, go on.
What you mean, in terms of?
Why you say that the going through MP referral to
because-
department as weakness?
I can tell you because the attitudes that they come with in there. Terrible.
Okay,
necessarily in that department.
All over the government workers have attitude on
They
it.
come with a sense.
And they some of them been there for years, they have been no program.
1 minute, 1 minute, just
So that is,
one minute. Let's not get too personal with this, okay?
I,
Don't get too personal with your experience. Don't get, my niece, do not get too personal with this experience. No, but
everybody is entitled to their own opinion.
yes, but listen to me. Listen to me, in all seriousness, some of it is not, it's not quite how it works, okay? And I can tell you that you do get referrals from members of parliament, but you're not obligated to hire those persons if they do not meet the right fit. But as HR managers, you have to be strong enough to do the pushback. If you're not strong enough to do the pushback, then you will get misfits for your organization. Okay? So there's nothing wrong with a member of parliament, whether they're in the government or they're in the opposition, making recommendations for their constituencies to go and apply. But you, as an HR manager, as a professional, should be able to weed out what you need. Okay? And select from that. But then they also should be able, you should also be able to put them in a place where they are not only vetted, but they are tested with other persons you may have selected to be part of your agents, part of your institution. But you have to have the strength to do the right thing. If you don't have the strength, they will push them on you. Okay, yes, ma'am.
How many, I don't know, this might be big, but in the government sector, do every ministry have a HR or it's one department from a head? Like Ministry of Foreign Affairs, do they have an HR manager in there? Or Ministry of Labor, do they have an HR? I don't think government have a lot of human resources.
Yes, they do. Yeah, they have HR. Yes, they do.
Yeah, how it's not being right. It's like they don't have that, like they have no gatekeepers.
Well, I
And what
think
the
you-
plan will go on.
Yeah, no.
The high, like.
No, I think, no, you, and excuse me, I'm not being rude. I
Mhm.
think, and I say this respectfully, you're operating and
Mhm.
speaking from a level of not knowing.
That's why. I
And that's why I'm answering, you're speaking from a level of ignorance
Mhm.
and not knowing, being ignorant of what really, and I'm not being offensive, don't take it as
Mhm.
offense, okay?
Okay.
Of not knowing what takes
So
place.
what's the protocol?
They do have HR managers
Mhm.
in these government agencies. I just this-
Each ministry has. one?
each ministry, every ministry has an HR department. Just
Exactly.
as,
It's impossible.
but that's not what it appears. See, that's why, but no, you're wrong with that.
Oh, wow.
Because just even in this week's paper,
Mhm.
a water, what do we call it? Waterworks, water and sewage.
Uh-huh.
There was a huge, but 3 ads.
They
HR
look for somebody.
position. There are 3 ads for HR positions.
This is what I trying to tell you now.
What?
They have none. That's why they.
They may be promoted, they may have been retired, they may have moved on.
Right.
So they do have. Boy. And I said I was ignorant about a lot of things until I went and worked in some of these
But
environments.
I will be ignorant, that's why I want to ask.
But they do have,
Thank you
okay,
very
they
much.
do have. And you may not think so, but some of the best HR managers came out of the government systems and went into private sector. In all
Because
seriousness.
they tired of them, be selling them. who
I
hire.
can see why, though, they
But
have a
the-
lot of.
That's why.
No,
Yeah.
they have a lot, they have a lot of, listen to me, they have opportunities, they have a lot of training internationally. The Commonwealth Educational Fund, which we are part of the Commonwealth, allows for these people to be trained with other international HR managers in technical areas to get skill set that they normally won't get in this particular environment.
Okay.
So some of the best came out of there as well. I can tell you that from my experience, and I've spent over, 35 years in HR, in private and public sector. I can tell you that, as the children say the truth. So anyhow, we've been on that point too long. Let's move on, because I get a little hot there.
Blame me for people in their services.
Okay, so but no, Department of Labor has, and what's his name, Pakistan, that's the, he's been doing an excellent job lately with ensuring that Bahamians are considered first for positions that are being advertised. If they have the skill set to fill those positions before they entertain someone from outside of the country. And so that all relates and connects to immigration and how that is handled. And one of the policies that immigration, the present minister and other ministers before him had insisted that persons coming in with certain expertise that they trained, it's in their contracts of agreement, that they put succession in place. Succession in place for persons to learn the skill sets that this person brought into the country, so that in 3-5 years, I don't know, depending on the technical skills, they would then be ready to take over.
Let's be honest, though, they don't
Yeah.
do that.
They just bypass that.
Do that. We
They
all
just
know
bypass
we all know those
They
positions.
find
are
any help
for-
in the company,
they
put
are
their
for-
name there.
you know that.
Okay,
But
Because
let me-
they only
let
go
me
in
tell
to
you-
check to make sure it's done.
okay,
Let's continue.
all right.
And people, they only post it internally and
Yeah.
get people in the interview with no.
Yeah. You know, we didn't find anyone, so now we have to.
But I, they should bring on the international people. All the jobs. No, but hold on, that's part, no. wanna make a point. What I realized, and I find that this is very poor. Listen to me carefully now. What they do is they look for persons with degrees. Let me give you an example. Right now, to get a job in Central Bank, if you don't have a bachelor's degree, you're not hired. No friend, no family, no phone. You understand?
Bank is very strict.
Understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, a lot of Bahamians don't have degrees. You understand? Whereas this international person will come with two or probably three. You understand? So then they go ahead and they take that person. But I don't know why, for the life of me, people feel like people with degree are smart. Because the people with degree are so dumb. And the people with
Certifications are higher than degrees.
and these people, who
It's
have
a
a degree,
degree though. You
degrees, you will have to train them who ain't have no degree. And I find that to be like,
It's a system.
yeah,
Okay,
that's a problem.
Central Bank, I worked for Central Bank for 13 years.
If you have a
And
degree,
then-
you gotta have-
Hold on. We set the policy
Mhm.
because we wanted a standard of our employees.
Mhm.
And that's the wrong one you pick on. We set a standard, and I was there when that was set.
And, is that true?
It
Or
is
correct?
true. It's absolutely true, because I was part of that system that put that in place.
Go ahead.
Central Bank has very few expatriates.
This is what I'm
one
saying.
of the only expatriate that had existed up to about 3 years ago in Central Bank was the inspector chief, not seeing inspector, but Karen now has that position, because he trained her. We ensured that a training program was put in place so that Karen could learn how to be the inspector of banks throughout the country.
Okay.
All right, so as I say, sometimes we speak these things, but there are reasons why, and this is when we go into something immediately, get into these details as to why you take a position like that. If you want to upgrade your staff to be competitive to persons within the region, they have to have qualifications. To sign off on documents, you have to have certain qualifications. To qualify for certain loans, you have to have certain qualifications. That's set by the international community. And so in order for our people to be able to respond to that, we had to ensure that they met certain qualifications. We even gave educational subsidies to ensure that people got their degrees, those who were in there from the very beginning. They got their degrees, and then someone went into masters, some went on to the special certifications that were needed to be able to go in the international community and to be part of these international committees that make decisions. That's the standard we had to set. We were forced to set because of external forces to meet those requirements. So anyone now, basically, most I went up University of Bahamas, formerly College of the Bahamas, anyhow. That's why education is not as expensive there, because they're trying to bring the populace up to the standard of an international community. Not saying that you have to have a degree. There's certifications that you may want that some of it equates to certain degrees depending on what subject you go into. Okay. So one of the things you want to encourage your staff who you supervise to constantly to upgrade themselves. And if a person chooses to remain non-knowledgeable after being exposed, that's their tough luck. But one thing I know, that if you constantly read, you study, you discuss, you research, you become more knowledgeable and you make better decisions. So don't compare yourself with persons who aren't doing that. You should always want to upgrade. And people spend over $60,000 now for a degree. Okay? $60,000. I remember the day we used to be 25 or 30. No way you can hardly get a degree overseas, that type of money, only here locally, because it's subsidized by companies and organizations. So people should be constantly upgrading your skill. I can tell you one thing. You may have the practical experience, you may have the technological understanding, but if you go in certain organizations and you don't have that the paper, you're gonna plateau. Because every year, not every, a lot of young people now are coming out with their degrees, And once they are proven, they get the training, they can do the work just as good as you, who has been there, and quicker, who's been doing it, for 10, 15 years. Because they get exposed to new methodologies of how to do something better in a lot of instances. So let's be careful when we start throwing how people who don't have a degree are probably more qualified. That's not necessarily, and when you bring me the data to prove that, I'll accept it. But until then, let's be careful how we address that, okay? And that's why you are here. You are here to get some type of certification and some type of exposure to upgrade yourself, to make better decisions in the organizations that have hired you. That's why you're here, all right? And that's the world we are in. That's the world we are in. I said to my youngest daughter, when are you gonna do your master's? You finish your first degree, you gotta make the sacrifice, you gotta go do your master's. Why? Because you gotta keep upgrading yourself or you're gonna become redundant with the degree that you have. And that's the reality. For me to prepare to come to this, I had to go and refresh and reread. I have the practical experience, but I had to refresh because things have changed. And so you have to constantly be upgrading yourself. Whether it's degree or there's a seminar, if it's a workshop, if it's something online, always be hungry. Try to be hungry for knowledge and information. You think different, you behave different, you see things different from different windows. And there's nothing wrong with that. So let's see how we can, as future HR managers, build the morale, build the expertise and of our employees. But let's move on here from this. Well, I didn't think that would take that long. Let's see where I am. I think I want you to go. We're on page 12 now. Let's look at 14 and 15. Look at page 12 in your workbooks. Steps in HR manpower training. We're gonna go to that for a minute. Or a few minutes. Okay, remember we're talking about recruitment and selection. And one of the things I had noted in my notes here is that a successful organization, a company cannot be at war with its employees. Why did I found that quote some place I read some time back, and it stuck to me. So when you're doing your recruitment and selection, you have to ensure that you are getting the right fit for the job that you have advertised. If you don't, you're creating war. I say a civil war within your organization. And let's look at page 12 here. 12 here. We're going to look steps in HR manpower planning. It refers to about 6 things that we need to consider here. We need to analyze our organization objectives. We need to look at the inventory of current human resource capital, which we presently have. We need to look at forecasting demand and supply of the human resources. We need to look at estimating the manpower gaps. By that, I mean manpower gaps, the skills that are lacking between one employee and another senior employee. If I'm a senior person, officer doing certain tasks, and you are a junior person doing similar tasks and reporting to me, what gaps exist that I need to identify to ensure that you get those skills so that when the opportunity comes, you can apply for that position that's being advertised once those gaps have closed or been minimized through training and development. So we have to estimate our manpower gaps, and we have to look at formulating the human resource action plan and monitoring, control, and feedback. Now, what does that all mean? It means several things, and I have a handout here. Job analysis and HR activities. Let's look at this for a minute. It's just a very simple, just to make some notes here. When you're looking at and analyzing jobs, there are several things that. It just was a rough thing. When we're looking. When we're looking at, as it says here, when we're looking at manpower planning, there are certain things that we need to look at as relates to a job, our job description. The job description tells you what you have in the organization or in the department. And in doing those job descriptions and analyzing them, there are several things that you have to consider. Your union relations. They say, well, how I have to look at union relations. This is very important because unions we have industrial agreements. Now, and some of, it's not just in government agencies, but you have to look at what has been outlined in those industrial agreements as it references certain jobs. And I say peculiar jobs sometimes, which exist in your company or your organization. So you need to look at what the industrial agreement says about that particular job that you have agreed to. I was reading a case study and somebody was asked to sweep the floor. And the person refused to sweep the floor. And it became a complaint. It went to the union. At the end of the day, the company lost. Okay, it's filed a suit against this employee and the employee won. Why? Because it was not in his job description to sweep the floor. And that may seem simple, but this is why you have to have good relations with your unions and you have to have clear job descriptions and job tasks that are expected to be executed by employees who fill those respective roles in your organization.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What about if it says, it gives you a list of your duties, but it also says all other duties assigned?
And it says any other duty, right? It says any other duty assigned, so that's it. And you find that most agreements are taking that out. They're upgrading their agreements and they're taking that clause out because it has caused too much confusion in it. But how you get around that? You have build relationships with your unions so that you can be, I take this as I said, we can be sensible in our giving of job tasks for people to do, because it's never really impossible. We can have a list of job tasks, okay, a list of things a person is supposed to do, but in most instances, it's not going to have everything. But if you have proper good relationship with your employee and your union shop stewards, it's not going to be an issue, especially if you're not being abusive. So most of them are taking that out and refining that in agreements moving forward, because it's cost a lot of issues. I used to write it like that myself. I don't do it anymore.
Okay.
You try to be as clear and as precise as possible. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So let me ask you something on that, because, this is something personal, right? So if you go into, like, most of us work, well, fight, and the client, vomit all over the floor, does the manager of that branch now is expecting, their subordinate to go and clean that up?
You don't have janitorial staff?
Janitorial staff is in the branches.
They come at night.
Okay, so it can't stay there all day.
So who's expected to clean that up?
I think it should be a team effort.
Okay,
some people, and seriously, some people can't stand the smell or the sight of vomit, where some people, just like some people can't stand the sight of blood.
can you leave it then, tell you call, you can call the cleaning company, and they can come and clean it.
That is an option,
That is okay.
but will you want to stay there? That's an option. But
If everybody's saying they're not gonna clean it, who's gonna clean it?
So you could throw something over it, you just leave it on the ground?
No, she's just giving us.
Okay,
That's
that's
a
a
really
regular
good question. That's a really good question.
Supposed to be in it.
Well,
Did she just said that there's no janitor, so if
Right.
she's saying they should be.
No, but it's manager.
But if everybody said they don't do it.
Can the manager then,
Decide who he wants to clean.
if you said for,
no,
Dr. JD say any other duty assigned.
I can't turn my lounge out. But it's not enough. I'm the manager. This my brand, right? No, be real, this my brand. At the end of the day, I have to report to whomever. I can go into the night, because the day that's getting up, they looking at me like I crazy. And then if you don't want to do that, you will leave it there and tell, you can call the janitors, and when they come, when the bank closed, to come clean it. Or you can take the initiative, get some gloves, or go and go clean it the best way you can, nothing. But then, that's calling. What you wanna
okay,
do, to leave it there.
okay, Tatum, listen to me, listen.
Don't have the people cleaning the thing.
Tatum. I get tired of that. No, she's very passionate about how she feels, but the thing, but see, this is where leadership comes in.
Right.
Okay, this is the difference between a leader and a manager. All right? And this is, and seriously.
And the manager did take.
That's the difference between, that's the difference between, yeah, managing and leader. You have to lead by example. And it may require, in that particular incident, the most senior person to get involved, and once he or she gets involved with addressing it, other people will. come in.
I stand right there all day, because the people that you talk
Yeah, but that's a peculiar
Wow,
situation, but
that's
that's
powerful, very powerful.
I've been in a position where you're in, I'm on it, and they stand right there until the thing is clean. And the people sometimes.
That's a very important thing.
Back in the day, like, that's what y'all said, what?
Okay,
Right, like I was saying with managers and leaders. You a good leader, you could end up being a manager, you're a good leader.
Yeah.
Managing and leading is a good people.
yes.
If you were a good leader, you wouldn't have to pinpoint nobody to say, deal with that.
One thing to listen.
You know what I mean? You allow people coming up and stepping up to the plate to say, okay, but you know what, I can take this one, but don't that's my manager, he always doing this, or he always let me like that, or he always showing this, or we always getting. You know,
They coming up with situations that leader.
but I've seen, I have had one, I've never, no situation like that. But I myself have done it. Where, you know, step up and it wasn't only that to me, because I've had good leaders. That I was willing to assist or to get help for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that little simple thing right there, will turn around, so big, no, not that with you. But that little simple thing right there, to turn around so much more later on for me as an individual.
Yeah.
Because, you understand what I'm saying?
Very much, that's being meticulous, you know?
Yeah, that's a real situation. I pray that don't happen to nobody else. You know what I mean?
Okay. So job description, thank you, but that's an extreme, that's real, but that's where leadership and management does come in.
Wow.
And there should be emergency types of things in your branch or office to deal with that. With situations, gloves, buckets, hand towels, all sorts, but that. They just not.
More than that.
Planning, when you're doing a job analysis of what you need to advertise, you have to have planned, and remember, we talked about this earlier, but forecasting, budgeting, projecting, what is needed. This is part of your analyzing before you put out your vacancies and before you do the advertisement.
What you call it, HR?
Planning, HR planning. These are, okay, yeah, these are some of the things that also need to be included when you're doing your job analysis before you advertise for a vacancy. You also have to consider health, safety, and security. Hello, and people want to do on it.
Because you get flat on that. So you need that comes under safety.
So all of that comes under safety. These, how will you deal with it? In particular, when I wrote this here, I was thinking though, a person's construction skills, okay?
No worries.
Helmets and boots and the appropriate gear. These are things that have to be considered when you're doing your job analysis and hiring someone to fill a particular position. Because once this analysis is done properly, your advertisement will be inclusive of certain things that are required, and so you can advertise properly. Then you go to the recruiting, and we looked at how the different methodologies that you're going to use to recruit. And we've gone through some of them in the listing where you looked at job fairs, you looked at social media for advertisement, Ministry of Labor, not the Ministry, Department of Labor, referrals. What methodology you're gonna use to recruit? This all needs to be included in your job analysis as you prepare your job descriptions. Okay, and then you also look how are you going to evaluate the individuals that you are bringing in, what form of performance appraisal you're going to utilize, how often you're going to do it, and what are you going to be evaluating. And then you want to look at also, as you're preparing your job analysis and your job vacancy, how are you going to train the individual and help them develop to be ready or to become even more ready when they take on the job that you have advertised. What type of training and development are you going to do? And then the selection process, how are you actually at the end of the day, after you've done all of this job analysis, how are you going to select the person? What format are you going to use for your selection? We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. And then lastly, how you are going to compensate the individual. How will you compensate them for the job that's being advertised? And you have to do an analysis of that. And let me tell you why compensation is so important. We come across instances where we bring people in and you pay them more sometimes than the person who's been there for 12, 15 years. And that isn't fair. Something is wrong, something is wrong with it if you don't have skills. Okay, and that's why it's so important that you have job scales, you have the low, the medium, and the high. So, and normally they're like $10,000 difference in those scales. Very seldom is it more between the different scales. And once you've considered how you're going to compensate, where that person is going to fit in that scale, you can ask the question in interview, how much money you intend to make? I think that's the point.
Because the person might say too much and then they don't get the job.
Well, what it does, it shows that the person didn't do much research and the person has no understanding of the compensation level for that particular job. The range, you should have an idea of what the range is. And you do that by going online, okay, checking with the Ministry of Labor, asking your friends what are the ranges in their different, their different institutes. So you go in sensible. How could you apply for a job? You expect to make 60,000 with the range, and then the scale is only for probably $25,000 to $40,000. I'm just saying. You can, hypothetically. So you already know that something ain't quite right here. The expectations may be too high, so they're not a good fit. And sometimes I found you have to discuss these things with persons and say, this is our range. And based on your qualifications and your work experience, we will determine where you fit in that range. So you should have a clear, though, idea of what that is, that you, how you're gonna compensate this individual before you go and do your advertisements, because you can get swing if you don't. So that's, you can make notes on that as we go along. I want you to turn now to page 9. And this here highlights some of the points I've just made. When you are aligning HR practices with each other in the organization, internal and external environments, you got to look at, as it says, recruiting and hiring employees, wages and benefits administration, how you're going to orientate and how you're going to train, develop, and coach, as it refers here as coaching, counseling, and apply discipline when you are preparing a job analysis and a job description. How do the practices listed above align with the organization, internal and external environment? This is so important because internal, the right course of, you got to look at the right course, the right skills, the right job, and the right talent, because it affects customers, it affects the competitors, legal, make sure that it's legal, it can comply and complies with whatever legal legalities that you have to comply with as it relates to HR practices, and labor industrial agreements. For example, let's say for position, why this is important, because if you're going to make that position redundant at any particular time, there's a cost to your organization. And they are outlined in our labor laws, which you can find online, how much you should be paying that particular person. So you have those legal constraints that you have to confine to. And of course, financial obligations to NIB contributions. These are the things that you need to consider and how they align with your HR practices and you making your selection doing your recruitment. Now, I have a list of questions here. You may have this handout, Ms. Exoma, internal recruiting, and talk about external recruiting. Let's just look at what we have here. I think you have that handout. McGill sent it to you. Hi.
Yes, I got it.
Okay. Okay. Now, when we talk about, I mentioned this earlier when we began our class, internal and external, and the process that you should always do it internal first. And then you go to external. Let's look at the internal recruiting, what it may involve, okay? Internal recruiting may involve the following: posting, you post the vacancies. Another thing, people may, if you have a position and you're advertising it, people may be promoted or transferred. What's that?
If they promoted or transferred, and you have to fill the position.
You have to fill the other position that they're leaving. That becomes another vacancy.
Right.
But sometimes if they apply, so there may be somebody, a junior apply for the position that you advertise, you promote them. Or it could be what we call a lateral transfer.
A lateral move.
A lateral move to, right, from one department or one job function that's equal to it to another. You want to consider current employees. It's very important that you consider those who are presently employed with you. When you're talking about internal recruiting. And this also involves current employee referrals. Recruiting former employees, and some people don't like that, but people may have left your organization. They got married, they may have relocated, then they come back, they were good employees. Why not? If a vacancy exists, why not consider them? There's so many different reasons why people move, but you can consider recruiting former employees. What y'all think about that? Yeah, yes,
I don't know.
Because we have job, redundancies based on position,
yes,
and then they were good, but at the time, nothing was available.
Right.
And so when something becomes available, they will be some of the first person to reach out to.
great. That's a good support. Yes.
That's
As a person who's working in HR for 35 years, I'm gonna get down.
Okay.
On that, yeah, at my current job, right? I notice the trend now is, we do a lot of contract employees. These are employees that have worked with the bank 20+ years, collected everything that the bank has owed to them, and they bring them back on contract. Then you have employees that want to learn, want to move up, want to, you know,
Get the
expand, do other things in the bank, but I just wanna know, what is the thought process behind this, is what I'm doing. I'm trying to move up, but every time I look around, I see somebody else new, they bring back from contract, which is more costly. Let me make sure I put that in, because they've already given them everything that they owe to them, and now they're paying them contract, whereas you have me, who's already under your salary, you already budgeted for me. You can train me, put me in this position, let me learn this, and everybody moves up. But they continuously bring back these people. What's the process behind? What's the thought process behind that?
Anybody wants to help answer that?
Me.
Who's me? Ms. Tatum, hold on, Keisha wanted to answer first. Go ahead, Keisha.
After this.
Go ahead,
I
Keisha.
just wanna say, they use the government as reason, that's it, that's what they do.
Oh.
I
Other
heard,
than
okay,
the government, they will
okay,
try and
okay,
pay them, and then.
okay, I heard you in the comment, you said that. You said when they could pay you, and you said that they pay them more, right?
Contract workers are not paid higher.
No, contract workers, they don't get benefits.
No.
When you are there, you're gonna get health insurance, dentist, and all these things. A contractual worker just gets the salary. That's
Okay.
it.
And
That's it.
me, who is there now, with my benefits,
Yeah.
still don't make what they make on contract.
Okay.
And they can save that money by training you,
And
just
that's what I'm saying,
invest
so
that
now,
money, train you,
But
and
that's
give you.
still additional, cost, because they had to bring them in.
but that's what I'm
And
saying.
all these states have already been paying for you, so that's no additional cost.
So I'm still not making the salaries with my benefit that they are paying these people every 2
So
weeks.
what's wrong with training you and giving you that increase?
And so much
Empower you,
people,
and that's it.
so now
Like
the
that.
employee morale is dropped because
Mhm.
everybody trying to move up. Everybody trying to,
Working
like,
hard to
get
move up.
harder.
You ain't going nowhere.
Well, I don't
Every
know,
$12.
yeah. I don't know what your culture is, and contract workers don't, like you said, don't get benefits.
No.
That's why the salaries sometimes appear to be higher, but it's not really in most instances. And it's for a short period of time. Now, I honestly can't answer you that properly because everything is relative. And it depends on, sometimes organizations don't want to invest, will not invest in further development because they may have other plans of shutting down the company, closing its doors. They may have other plans of, they may have budget constraints as it relates to full-time employees. Sometimes they use it to get around unions and demands. There are all sorts of reasons why organizations do that. But I would honestly say that investment should always be made for employees' development, for growth, who are present, who are full-time with you. We should always try to provide opportunities for those employees to upgrade their skills and to learn new skills. Why they're not doing that, I don't know. I don't know the culture.
So we had a town meeting where, we met with the powers that be, that's what we call it, you know, the general manager, and the powers that be. We met with the powers, everybody got together. And we just kept coming right back to the same point. So I realized it's not only on the issue.
Yeah, it seems like it's across the
So now
organization.
employees don't wanna partake in anything, you killing the morale because they see, I mean, like I said, I'm trying my, and this has been for like years. You see new faces, not new, but faces coming back.
You don't work at BPL.
I'm sorry,
You work at BPL?
no man.
That's okay. Who works at BPL in here? Nobody?
No.
I know that's one of the companies where they've had a lot of turnover as well in contracts. There's some government agencies where that has taken place. I don't know the reason behind it. And but one of the things, every organization should be investing in the development and the enhancement of their employees. And that does help to build morale. And as that statement I said earlier, you don't never want to turn your employees into the enemy. So you have to find out what is needed to bring about positive change. And that's why I'm giving you this project, believe it or not, what can be done to boost employee morale in your organizations. That could be one of the points for your group to discuss and expound on what needs to be to correct that type of behavior that's happening in organizations. It could be one of the points you investigate and research on to mitigate that type of activity.
I
Okay,
have a thought.
you have a thought? Go ahead.
Yes. I wanted to say that I feel as though, like you were saying, it's the culture of the organizations. And I feel like a lot of organizations, because they're so set in their ways, it's difficult for the younger generation, or they find it hard to give the younger generation an opportunity to prove that they can do the job.
Yeah. And that is, I don't know why people are afraid of younger people, but we got to work together. We're gonna have to find ways. They're afraid, like you're saying, like they are afraid of change, and that's their way of pushing back and pushing out. Because the thing about with the Z and the X generation, if they don't feel that they are wanted, they're respected, they're gone. They're not spending no time, wasting their time there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So, current employee referrals, recruiting former employees, and that's where your contract work comes in. But they could recruit them to be full-time employees once again, based on the job. Former applicants and previous walk-ins, that's they could be from the internal recruiting database. And remember, we talked about creating a database of applicants. You may want to pull from that for your internal and to do your recruiting internally. Now, when you go to external recruiting, like we've talked about some of these before, schools, colleges and universities, employment agencies, labor unions, Department of Labor, media sources, trade and competitive sources. In other words, other trades like yours, especially in the construction trade and in the IT technological trade in that area. You may want, we get constant referrals from other technology companies. They often trade each other based on the needs of the organization. And you could do the internet recruiting is another one. And I have listed here executive search firms. So these are different methodologies you can use for recruiting. Any questions about that? Or comments? None, everybody understands that? How are we gonna get these people in? Okay. Let's go. I have another one handout here for you tonight. The next okay, after we've done the internal, the external, internal and external application process, etc. We select, and then what do you think we go to next? The interview process. Okay, so you should have a handout also on types of interviews. Hey, too long, quiet. I think she ready to go home now. You won't get like going quiet and you tell me you got me up. I can stop.
This exam is going to be very lengthy. See all this documentation, how you bring a study on.
No, you ain't, no, you know, the exam is, no.
That's a lot of information.
Well,
Look at these, I know. What you gonna do with your one brain? Let me know.
no, I won't do that to you. This is a 4-week course. Your exam is gonna be very simple. That's why we're doing 10 for participation, 30 for your presentation, and that's a team presentation. So if one person gets 30, everyone gets 80, okay?
But child, I only like it.
And the other, 0.60 is the exam.
Okay.
Okay. Exam, the 22nd, what's the last class, right? I think that's the last class. Yeah.
A group presentation, okay.
I'll go over it before we leave tonight again, because, 1 or 2 persons may not have been here. I think you came a little, yeah, okay, before, I'll go over it again.
Thank you.
All right. Ziva, Azia, you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
You okay? I know you don't have these handouts, so we have to get a set of handouts for you, okay?
No, I do have the handouts.
Oh, you do? Wonderful.
Yeah, Miguel sent it to me.
Oh, great. Okay, great. You have any questions or comments?
Not as yet.
You think we should tie every one of these ladies up in here tonight or just Tatum?
You know what? I myself in this classroom.
Yes, you must. No, no one silenced in Tatum. I won't allow that here. No. Okay, okay, these are types of interviews, that when you already made your selection, you can consider than the traditional interview. You have what we call the structured interview. And it says here that the structured interview uses a set of standardized questions that are asked of all applicants. Tell me about yourself. Yeah.
I hate that.
None of you are gonna ask that question when you were interviewing. Tell me about yourself.
Using an animal,
Tell me about
which animal would you be? That's a question every interview I go in.
Boy, never gonna know. I never in life. I will.
Jungle, right?
Yeah, that's.
Or
what
if
I
you
know.
wanted to use an animal to describe who you are, what animal would you
A
be?
turtle.
Yeah.
They will go so.
So before y'all learn about the turtle, what y'all need to be?
You always have a lion, a gorilla, an elephant.
You know what mine was?
What?
A chameleon.
A chameleon.
Why?
Why?
She like to be a turtle.
Because No, you know, a chameleon could go anywhere and just blend right in.
Exactly. That's exactly what I.
They're
said.
they're dangerous though. They are dangerous. A chameleon, they are, yeah, they're dangerous. But you like me, I'm like that. Try to stand out.
You love to see them first.
I go, I do my work, I blend right in. You give me a task, I get it done. I ain't trying to be like, oh, I come in here and I trying to know, that ain't me. I do the work to make my money. I ain't trying to be the enemy. I ain't trying to be the friend.
Okay,
I want my money and I get it. You ain't gonna see me there, but I there working. I
okay.
did.
So they have these structured questions, standardized question, the trick here or the thing that's in common with structured interviews is that the structured interview and the initial screening especially is done in the initial screening, especially if there are large numbers of applicants for a job. Now, that's one of the safe places because if you have 5 questions, you're gonna ask 100 people for the poor person is doing. Oh, gosh. The ones that you want will probably shine out. They're gonna be different in how they answer those 5 questions. So they're gonna blossom and be different from the regular ones. So you have what we call the structured interview. Then you have the situational interview. I always find this one interesting. A situational interview is composed of about how an applicant might handle a specific job situation. The question is. Oh, Lord. So, okay, how they're gonna handle that situation? Boy, the questions are hypothetical related to knowledge of the job and its requirements. So there ain't gonna be no janitor, so we ain't gonna ask them that question. All right.
But if it's a janitor, what you mean?
You could ask, so how would you handle that type of situation? Now, that's one of the questions we now add to the list. Okay. But what you do in a situation, basically you give them a hypothetical type of scenario and you ask him, it's like a problem. So, yeah, just resolve that problem through how they will handle it.
That comes in and, you know, speaks to you in a derogatory manner, how will you handle that? And you, or foreign language. You can all call them words.
Serve them quickly so they get.
Okay, so you've given some good situational scenarios of how they can handle, but that's what that is all about. Then you have the behavioral description interview. Applicants here are required to give specific examples of how they performed a certain procedure or handled a problem in the past. So they're checking to you and the things that you have done and how you handled it and how they will resolve.
Did you go over and beyond?
You can go over and beyond, yeah, you can.
Just like an employee, how do you deal with them?
Yeah. How
Lazy managers.
How do you deal with them when they want you to do all the work?
discipline. Don't meet deadlines, discipline, warning
They
slips.
just come to work for lunch.
The non-directive interview uses general questions from which other questions are developed. So it's like lead questions, one lead onto the other. Where did you sleep last night? In the car? Why? Did you get put out? Yes, have you been put out? Read it, you getting put out. Okay, then you have the stress interview. The stress interview is designed to create anxiety and put pressure on an applicant to see how the person responds. Now I know I used to do panel interviews, and that's one coming up next. Where I used to be always the devil advocate on the panel.
Always.
Oh, but we have somebody aside to do that.
Complex question.
You can do that well.
That's looking at her, you know? That's looking at her.
Oh, Lord, anyhow, no, child, I don't take part in this.
What the complex question is?
I don't know.
Deal with criticism.
And then you cross that eye. Yeah. So it's there's stress interviews, and sometimes when people are dealing with stressful jobs, like people in the medical field, they have stressful jobs, especially the nurses, and I'm just thinking of the pandemic and all the things that they went through. People who deal with fires, the fire department, people who rescue people at sea. All of those are stressful in jobs. For example, immigration, that's a very stressful job. And
Even the
tedious,
police
yes.
officers, people always trying to kill all the time.
That's right. Police, that's what should I put my gas on? Because I got a family to go home.
Oh.
I have young children, as well, how do I? So they are stressful situations. So they are stressful interviews that people have to go through. And then you have the panel interview. The panel interview comprises of a panel, several interviewers interview the candidate at the same time. I like panel interviews. Let me tell you why I like panel interviews. They're hard to get together because normally you would have your executive team or your senior management, at least 5 persons being part of that panel, along with the HR. Someone from 2 persons probably from HR, but it always should be an odd number, never an equal number, because if you have the vote, it has to be, right, it should be a odd number. So it's we either use 5 or 7, depending on the size of.
The majority winning.
When they vote, then you have to
Votes.
vote, yeah, right. And what happens is that, no one can blame you for anything. It was a panel, it was a collaborative effort that we decided.
But then the one person who say no when everybody else say
When
yes.
he leaves, that's the panel, even though he may not agree or he may not agree with the decision, he was part of the panel that agreed, and his professionalism, I don't want to say forces, but his professional approaches that he supports with the panel, the decision
With the
made,
majority
with the
said.
decision made
Okay.
by the panel.
Okay.
And it protects you as an HR professional,
It does.
as well.
It does.
So
Must
it-
feel good.
Right, right.
That's why you hear she say she like the panel.
Yeah, I like the ballot, you know what, they go give me the evil eye.
Different, all even one.
They do what?
All these.
So you say it's
In
structured.
a panel interview.
Yeah, all
All
of the,
of
the
these
different
types,
types.
all of these. And
Possible,
I'm telling you, because I've been in like 2 or 3 of them
Uh-huh.
myself.
And of course, you can have a combination of all of these in one interview, and it depends on the complexity. Keep forgetting this camera. It depends on the complexity of the job and the seriousness and the seniority of the job. When you're hiring a CEO or a senior manager, I think all of these should be part of some aspects of these should be captured in the interview at any point in time to make the best decision. Yeah. Practice interviews, considering the interview. Enthusiasm. This is for you, so as you're interviewing people. Confidence. Some people are just confident, and some are good at what they do, but they lack confidence. It's timid, yeah. Some are timid, and some of them very egotistical, full of themselves. Oh, I love them. We do a good team. Oh, what? Let them big themselves right off. But anyhow, I shouldn't tell you all those bad things. Maturity.
Goes a
Because-
long way.
Yeah, because it brings something to the job when people are mature in their thinking and you do that through questioning how they answer, how they react.
Yeah.
To you, and somebody's putting the pressure, and if they're able to stay calm, cool, and collected, cool as a cucumber, they used to say. That person in most senses is probably very mature and very self-controlled. Their appearance. Appearance is very, very important.
Very.
And even if you're going to informal and work environment, you should always be dressed above what you have seen. And I say that to send yourself one level more than what you have seen. Even if it's a very informal environment, you still come dressed appropriately. Not chest out at women and man in tight pants and everything ball up, Have you seen some of the most disgusting things? People come with the pissing. They don't even know how to remove certain things, when they're coming to present. So you have to go and search on the internet and the community. You ask questions. You also go to those places, sometimes observe how people present themselves before an interview. I'm telling you this if you're going on one. How do they present themselves? And you could tell the different levels of people as they come in and out. So it gives you an idea as to how to present yourself. Colors you wear also play a part in how people receive you.
They say interviews, you should always wear dark colors.
I think, I think that has changed. though.
Today's generation, you think it's valid? I think
No.
it should still be,
But dark,
yeah.
how many things should be dark? I like color.
I like it, exactly. Not for interview, not for an interview, that's. No.
I think it shouldn't be.
Not for an interview, not to say after you get the job.
It shouldn't be, what's that?
Fluorescent.
Yeah.
And not say I'm progressive with my black.
No.
No.
That's
The
the
black
thing.
people work on the lady. We're my soul, I mean, I have a photo. Woman did not just come in here and look at me.
You don't get rough orange, you don't get purple, the little tan, but the green is nice, red. But when you come to a damn loud or like the man who owned, who passed.
But like I say, for interview, I
No.
feel like a no, but if you already get a job in the company, if you come with your bright colors, you're already hired. on a project, you're- in the company handbook, but interview, I don't feel like you should do that.
But what she's saying, you're making a very important point. Basically, I mean, people say old fashioned, you should be conservative of how you present yourself in an interview.
Definitely.
But when I say covers, you don't want to be boisterous, too out there.
Colors are bright.
No, you could have on a beautiful rose pink, or a beautiful bright green, something. I mean, this is a beautiful green. No, it isn't fluorescent.
And she could tone it down with a black blazer, with a black blazer.
Yeah. She has to write, if she wished to, you're right, or cardigan, or. What you're making is that when you were saying that when you, then are hired, you could come, but you still have to look at what the handbook says.
Yes, definitely.
And what it allows, okay, because you don't want to be the odd person out. Now, I know in the family island, you all just go very, very casual, right? Anyhow, but you go casual.
Too casual. It's too casual for me. It's
Right.
very laid back.
Yeah.
Okay, laid back.
They pencil and jeans.
Yeah, and I know of some companies, very professional companies allow complete dress down.
Yeah.
They wear jeans, like you say, ripped jeans. Yeah, it depends on the culture. Yes, ma'am.
What?
You wear ripped jeans?
No,
Oh,
Let me understand.
This company I work for,
Mhm.
we are not, we're not the hotel, that we're inside the hotel.
okay.
But the hotel wanna tell us we need to be in full uniform and how we must dress, and how we must fix our hair, and how we must this. When you have your staff coming in, pencil leg, ripped jeans. The pants, you can see all the camel toe.
You gotta take it over them.
I mean, it's like, and I look, I be like, so you have a problem with my staff. You understand? When everything you don't want my staff to do, your staff is doing. It makes no sense to me.
You have, you're duplicitous really, but yeah, it's not consistent, yeah.
But I still like, I have a dress code
Uh-huh.
and hair and stuff for my staff. We
That's
have that in place.
Good.
You understand? But I'm like, you don't have to tell me that. I already know that. But then when I walk around and I see your staff, I'm like. So
Yep.
who's your HR manager? What is she doing?
So you have to you need to be consistent, whether you're a full-time employee or if you're as an outsourced company in the building, but you have to look at the culture. But when you're doing interviews, you should be, employees or potential employees should come with, be modest as, and a professional. Remember that, ladies serving ladies, I always say gentlemen serving gentlemen, you think like that, and you encourage your staff to think like that as well. Any questions on that?
I have a comment though.
Yes.
So
Yes, ma'am.
when we're talking about dress code, right?
Go ahead.
So. With organizations, like you said, used to be professionally dressed and they have lowered the standard, for whatever reason. I feel as though, and coming back to what the young lady in the red, she made a comment about if, you know, if it's something, should it still stand today? Right, in this current environment, with the standards being reduced, I feel that how you dress is how you behave.
That's very.
That's how I feel. I feel if you come to work, if you're not properly dressed, if you come to work in jeans, tennis, a t-shirt, which a lot of those well-standard, professional environments have dropped their standards too. Your staff then takes on that mindset, and I see that in the level of customer service now that's being given. Because of how they're dressed, that's the type of standard and service that we're now getting.
Excellent point, actually.
And so I am from the old school that when I go to work, I dress a certain way. I may not still be in the late suits and stuff that I used to wear. But even if I am dressed down, I'm gonna be in my cardigan. You know, you're gonna have on your loafers. You wanna, you know, the ties around the neck. You know, you still wanna look a certain way because then.
You have an
don't
image.
have to find the old school too. But I will tell you, I don't see that happening. I see the reverse, like I said, based on how individuals are dressed. That's the type of service now that's being given. That's
It was
being
a very important point though there, and you
Denise.
caught it,
given.
no, no.
Keisha.
Keisha said, but it's the mindset, you know,
Yeah.
it's coming from the inner man. And just how you're thinking, and it's I didn't think of it like that, but that's a very,
But
That's
this
how
is
you
the young
thinking.
generation, and I'm sorry for the youth, but that's their mindset. They are, and I even see it even on the road and driving. They're the more aggressive driver. They don't have, there is no sense of courtesy. They just believe that the road is just belongs to them and you need to get out of the way. And that's the mindset of the younger generation who's on the road. That's their mindset on the show. If you go to them for service, they give you this deplorable attitude where, what are you asking me? You can Google it, you can read it.
Yeah.
Or it's on innocent. Because I
Yeah.
can tell you, I've had to stop individuals talking to customers a certain way. And I'm like,
Where y'all
I
learn
don't
that from?
think you are.
Yeah.
You still have to have,
And
empathy, you still have to, have this level of customer service. You need to do to the client.
That's right.
And again, if we
I agree.
from this young, mentality, these young people have this nasty.
Not only young people.
Not mostly them,
But it's a generation.
okay?
We go
No,
into that
and
era.
you saying very, very, very important, not just, I've seen with older.
Oh,
insensitive
and I wanna make that comment, that's my some vote.
And
Because I've been
good,
in situations.
You
with them,
intervene.
You are where I have been in the front of a line.
Mhm.
And the older people come in front because they feel as though they're senior citizen, but no, there's one line. There's no senior line, in the middle. They say, well, I'm a senior
I
citizen.
don't give
But you
you.
must have something in line, yeah.
That's why I said, most of the young people, and that's why I did that, because I wanted to cross, I've seen it happen with older people, and I'm like, you know, it's only one line. But I'm a senior citizen, I said, yes, ma'am, you are, but it's only one.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't.
Argue
really
with them.
also talk to
No,
them.
no.
But some of them are really, really, really good enough to say, well, you know what, just for you doing that, so you will not go next. You know,
But I'm glad we have people like you who intervene and try to correct, but you have to also be careful with that. And you have to discern, and HR managers should have some,
Yeah.
you know, some discernment, because my dear,
Your battle.
yeah, pick your battles. Yeah, you really have to.
Very well.
Yes,
I could say that, let me go to the bottom. Was that? I agree, but, to an extent, because I, like I was saying, COVID has caused a lot of things to relax. The environment, like the work, and everything has relaxed since COVID. One like me, I never stopped working. Every day I went to work. So for me, yes, our environment relaxed a bit. But we never got that relaxed where we could come, we still had uniforms. You know what I mean? So down in the branch, they wear uniform. I'm thinking it's because it's easier, nobody kind of look for clothes every day. But you still get that uniformity. They- I'm sorry.
Down in the branch, or you know?
I wear a uniform. I'm saying not to say that. We never stopped working. Downstairs in branch, they never stopped working. It got relaxed. But I can't say that I've seen with the customer service, which you were explaining, I don't see that with our staff. They still pleasant. They still walking up, hey, Miss Smith, how you doing today? Haven't seen you in a while.
Your branch?
I can only speak for
Hey,
my, because I only can see my, but
But
I'm telling you,
local district, for services are tremendous in the country.
but I can only speak
You don't run them.
for
You
what I.
gotta go to the uniform thing. But I can tell you without any reservation. There's a particular well-established bank in this country. That the standards of drop. The saying now is. We don't care what you wear, we care what's in your head, in your brain.
Wow.
And so I cannot to say.
I have a question.
Staff can now show tattoo.
One minute.
The staff can now wear earring and it can be seen. The staff, the hair can now be cut. And I'm talking about male.
This is a commercial, like.
You can wear all sorts of colored tennis. And I'm talking about male or female. You can.
The things are changing, and we'll see.
I have a thought.
Because they come to work like they're going to party or they're relaxed or cool, because everybody's gonna look nice. Somebody's shirt isn't gonna be ironed. Next one, man, I've seen this. And leadership roles you have to dress certain things to how people look. And just how they look is what they give to the public.
And yeah, the very, very good points being made there. I wish we had more time, but I gotta finish 2 things tonight. We had one more comment in addition to. what you
Yes.
were saying. Go ahead.
I wanted to say that listening to everybody, I feel like what we have to realize too, especially for those persons talking, I think that you guys work the international banks, and a lot of the international cultures are being brought here.
Yes.
So what is okay, right? It's diverse. So it's us that have to now try and adjust to what they are doing. So I don't feel like it's much so, like everything is just relaxed. The world is evolving and we are trying to evolve with the world.
Very good point. Very good point. And this is where culture comes in, and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And it's not an easy road, because I can guarantee from your research, one of the things that you're going to bring up in this Z generation is that they want more flexibility in how they present themselves. If they're allowed that would boost their morale. They're going to say if older people, more mature people stop being so condemning, and that would help to boost their morale. So that's going to be an interesting discussion as we move forward to the 15th for those presentations. But that what Denise is saying is so very true. What's in the mind is how people are going to present themselves. So we got to determine what we're going to expose our staff to, because it becomes part of their subconscious. And that's another thing, your subconscious drives your conscious, okay? And that means it's driving your behavior. So that gets into a lot of psychology, and we don't have time for it, but we have to be very engaging, be receptive and acceptive of people, accept people for who they are, once they are not violating the employee code of conduct that has been established. And when you when these new recruits sign their their employee handbook and their letter of that they agree to the terms and conditions outlined in the employee handbook and their contract, that means they have to or should be complying to what's outlined there. So it becomes a little bit more complicated. It's not as easy, but we said the culture that we want in the organization. And there should be not only coaching, counseling, and to some respect, disciplinary action when there is violation, if we want to maintain the culture that we have agreed to be a part of. But that comes back to one of the very first points that we made at the beginning of this class, when we spoke about policies and procedures. So it's a little complicated, but some very good points are being raised here. Because we have little time left here, let's just finish this off here. Go to page 13 here for a minute. Okay, it talks at the top, it's headed critical issues. It talks about and challenges that limit HR planning, effectiveness, and success. All this ties into recruitment, okay? Communication and culture, training programs and workshops, time management, leadership investment, dealing with the wrong people hires. That's the point I want to get to. And dealing with challenging legislation and laws. Let's go to that point. Dealing with wrong people hires. So as HR managers, we have a responsibility to make sure that we hire the right people with the right fit, okay? Because if we don't, we're not going to be an effective or create an effective organization where we are producing and bringing about positive results. I must be tired. If we don't hire the right people. So I find that that is very critical and very, very important for us to keep in mind as we move forward. Go also now to page 14. Talks about attracting, recruiting, selecting the right talent. This is just reinforcing what we have done. Talks about recruitment, selection, placement, and inductions and orientation, training and development. Underneath that, I want you to take a few minutes for me. Just write in your notes, at least 5 things that you have gained tonight as it relates to hiring and selecting the right fit for your organization that you have to do. 5 things underneath that as it relates to recruitment, selection, placement, training, and development. But what we have covered tonight that you think is important for you to remember as it relates to recruitment, hiring, selecting of employees. Right. They can't turn it down. No, when they turn it on, it turns off. Yeah, turns, yeah. Okay, most of you finished? Tatum said, Ready, go home to my everyone. Going to my children. Just the children. Listen to wow. Wow. You ready to go home to yours too? Eh? That? Oh, that's a word. Okay, let's go to page 19. Let's everyone turn to page 19 in your text. And the last point here, as it relates to interviewing, we know we have, okay, we know that we gotta have a job analysis. We gotta forecast, budget, determine what we need, okay, based on what's missing. We know that we have to ensure that proper job descriptions are in place for those, and reporting structures are in place. We know that there, we need to have a proper organizational chart so people know where they fit within the department. We know that we have different forms of sources we can go to advertise. But before we even go to that, we know that we can advertise internally or externally. And then we go to the external market, you have a variety of things, of sources, means by which you can advertise that position. We know the different type of interviews that can be conducted, and a combination of some of them to select the right fit. One that we missed, and I went outside, Ms. Dana a minute ago, is that testing, sometimes testing is still appropriate based on what department the person is going in. You may want to test that particular person, their writing ability or their mathematical ability or their analytical ability. So testing is one thing we can also do in our selection process. But let's go to interviewing skills and techniques that these are desirable. It's described here as desirable characteristics that you should have. One, humility. I always say we're in all dirt, black dirt, white dirt, red dirt, orange dirt, yellow dirt, we're all dirt. Be humble. Okay. The ability to think objectively. And that's something you have to develop over time. Freedom from over talkativeness. Some people just talk too much in an interview. They just talk. Then we have to be careful and ensure that we have no extreme opinions and biases. I have a friend of mine in the US, she has a company now. There were so many biases in the US. She has a company now called the Unbiased Trainer, where she goes into organizations and help them to get rid of their biases towards people. And that's an interesting, I said, I got to bring you here one of these days to train our people to help us to get rid of these biases. And an HR manager, you have to be very, very careful of not allowing your personal preferences to determine your, or to help, I should determine how you behave and how you act with people. You don't react to them, you know, you act, but how do you act with them? And then there has to be, so we have to be careful, we have no extreme opinions or biases. We have to ensure that we are mature, and of course poised, you know, how you present yourself. Everybody I know from interviews I've conducted, and when a person leaves the room, boy, that person was well poised, eh? So you have to learn to control people, their facial expressions. I find that very difficult to do. People always tell me, I know just what you're thinking. But if we can develop that poise, you can't tell you saying something right or wrong when you're interviewing. You keep a certain poise and posture so that you're not influencing or intimidating the persons that you were interviewing. And then experiencing associating with people who have a variety of backgrounds. Some people go,
They do not run that light.
what he said?
Do not run that light.
Someone was about to kick off just now.
Interesting.
Yeah, the yellow light was trying to go, but.
Oh, they're going after, they're going after
Yeah.
them too.
They take them for a joke.
This road.
Yeah. Okay, experience and associate with people who have a variety of backgrounds. What I was saying there is that some people don't stay on some jobs very long, and you find that with the younger generation, 5 years is long. So you find that people are 3 to 5, but the thing about it, I always say that I don't see anything wrong with that. Especially if they're young, because you go and you're getting exposure and experience. And you have to sometimes move, but there's a time when the person needs to settle down. Now, if you find somebody in their 40s and they still skipping here and there, something wrong. Yeah, something is definitely wrong. Okay, we didn't do, I had to go to page 20, what's on page 20? Oh, yeah, page 20. This, I found this is very interesting. And what this is doing here, it's giving you a ratio of where you spend most of your time. And if you look at this as interview outline, you spend 15% on the basic information, 5% on introduction, so we don't need the animal question. It's okay.
I said a lot of people ask. me.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, a lot of people, even in training, when I do my training workshops and seminars, I stop doing that because so many people, and some people find it offensive. And it meant to be really fun. 20% on background information about the candidates. You can question them about their background based on the resume and the application, what's on the application. Because sometimes you need clarification on what was really their background, what role did they play in everything that they had listed there, or what's important to your selection process. And then 60% on questions on competencies and attributes. Now, I want everyone to think about that. Look at that, 60%. On competencies and attributes. And this makes up the major activities that should be involved in your selection of employees. Any questions on that? No questions? Everybody got that? Straightforward? And I just gave you a synopsis of what we covered tonight. Which is very, very simple, but very critical to the selection of the right employees for your organization. And she answers here saying, what would the world be like if everybody did what they were good at and enjoyed it? Now, let me go over before we leave this evening. And I think the last 3 persons who came in will make up the next team of 4 persons. So that's going to be Miss Exuma. You still here? Bernie?
Yes, I'm still here.
You, which group are you in?
I'm in group 2.
Group 2?
And in group 1.
You in group 1? So,
Their numbers so that we get them.
okay, can you share your numbers so that they can put you in the chat?
Monique's number is 455-6124.
That's the one who coming next week.
Yes.
Okay. You the one on two.
She in group, you're in group, right? Group 1.
I'm group 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
Make sure come next week now.
I come next week. I leave work late today.
No problem.
Okay, and Bodie, which group are you in?
I'm in group 2. My number is 445-6579.
Repeat it for me, please.
445 6579.
Okay, someone will be contacting you both from either of those groups. Y'all can get together and choose your group leader. Now, what are you doing? Let me get my notes here. So, and we'll do this survey next at the beginning of the next class. We don't have enough time for that tonight. But it's important. Take this down again. The exam is 60 points. Class participation, 10. All work, the team presentation is 30 points. This will require research, a presentation by the team, and the presentation will be 20 to 30 minutes. And then you will submit a summary of your findings. And the presentations will be made at the beginning of the class on February the 15th. So you have 2 weeks. And what is the topic? It's on boosting employee morale. And the three groups of employees who you're looking at is Generation X, who were born from 1965. You're looking at millennials who were born in 1981, from 1981. And you're looking at Generation Z, who were born from 1997. Okay, and overall, the passing rate for this course, just to pass, is 65%. You got to get at least that, okay, with the combination of everything that we have discussed here. Any questions, any comments? Everyone comfortable? Who is not in a group? There's one, someone is not in a group.
What exactly are you looking for in the presentation? Basically, research, I mean.
She don't have a number.
She
She don't have a number.
Okay,
You're the only person not in the group, right?
What they, I guess, what you think that-
What that, what it's on.
to keep them retained.
One or two, which one you want to go in?
Pick a number. I like even numbers, so I'll take two.
Yeah, where go to?
You group two, 1, 2. Okay. Who else in group two? Okay, okay, great. Everyone sign it?
No.
Okay, Peter, everyone see it? Group two, okay, get your number, okay, and your meetings? Your meetings is going to be by Zoom. Well, y'all can Zoom, WhatsApp, however you all decide, whichever is easy. Your group calls could be WhatsApp. However you all decide to meet, but you only have 2 weeks. And so that's going to go very, 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 very quickly. So
And I just use the I.
You know, I'm taking on that group, yeah. Let it be the first time we ate real group of our people.
wow.
What's you decide, if you do it on WhatsApp and you.
And group one ever made a group.
Yeah.
I'm calling group one, you had
Mhm.
one,
That's what you do, right?
3, 4.
If you're doing it from.
And that other lady
You
would
call
be
one
5.
person and just keep adding people, or just create a group on WhatsApp and then call everybody one time.
So
Yeah, you can do a group call, eh? That's what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I know how to do that, all you all should know how to do that. Okay, everyone straight and understands what they're doing?
Try together, yeah.
You're good? Class is dismissed. Good night.
So you need to get his number.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
That's why.
God bless.
Good night.
Good night.
You look happy like that. Mind you, I just.
Oh, maybe it's our older, wow.
You take groups now.
I look at your, I look at what I said, I put you at them off, right now.
Make it with you.
No, yeah, I'm there. Maybe that's it, I'm not gonna go.
They did gotta get some. I don't want that. Oh, you put that, I don't want that, okay? Good night, everyone.
All right, good night, and y'all walking across the road, together, walk together. Good night, bye-bye.
Play with your pillow. Bye.
Oh, okay, thank you. Good night. Good night, good night. Well, I don't know how to close this thing. Let me see. Oh, boy.